Hi students, in today's lecture we will be using the timer in the counter mode. So we have seen what is the counter in the previous lecture. So let us see how we can configure it for the counter mode. So we have seen the T0 con register. Now compared to the timer we had used the internal F oscillator by 4 clock for timing operations. But here the timing will be provided by the T0 CKI pin, that is on pin number RA4, right? So an external pin or a IO port, on an IO port or on a pin you have to provide the clock or a transitions, right? So this is the clock source that will be provided. Now everything else remains the same. Then that is the timer, we have to enable or disable the counter if I want to use the 16-bit or the 8-bit mode. So depending upon how many counts are there, I can go for a 8-bit mode or you can go for a 16-bit mode. Now here, since we are talking about transitions, here the counter can increment on a high to low transition or a low to high transition. Okay, so it will count the transitions. Now after that, if we want, you can use the prescaler also in the counter mode. Now the only difference between the timer and the counter is, instead of using the internal clock, I'll be using the external clock. Okay, in this case for timer 0 on RA4 pin. Now here there is no required of a clock. You can have transitions like this. Okay, you can have equal transitions or you can have unequal transitions. Okay, so we have very fast transitions. So the counter can count both. So this is 3, this is around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 5 transitions. So these transitions are selected. Now this transition can be selected whether I want to increment on the high to low pulse or on the low to high pulse using this bit. I will select the external clock in the counter mode. If I want a prescaler, so if my count is a little bit fast or I have faster counts and I want to reduce the count rate, I can use a prescaler. So here I can use 1:4 or divided by whatever it is there. So the count is divided by the number of counts, right? So here let us say if I give 3 pulses, it will only increment by 1 if I go for 1:2. Now it will be selected onto the TMR0 reg if it is 8-bit, or if it is 16-bit, there will be timer 0H and timer 0L. Okay, so both 16-bit and 16-bit, both the registers will be incremented, and if the count is more than the 16-bit or the 8-bit, the TMR0IF will be set and we will know that the counter has overflown. Now let us look at the steps for configuring the counter. Now the first thing that we need to is to make RA4 as, or the clock pin as a input pin. Okay, since we are providing the clock on an external input pin, we need to make that pin as an input. Then stop your timer or counter. Stop the timer or counter. Then configure TMR0. So that is, select your clock source to external. Select external clock source for timer. Then select the edge. Which edge do you want to select? So whether select edge transitions, whether you want to increase on high to low or low to high. Third select is, after that it's transition, whether you want to have a prescaler or not. Decide to have a prescaler or not. Right, and finally what we do is clear timer flag, overflow flag, and the register, timer register TMR0H and TMR0L, and then start your timer or counter and start counting, right? And that count value will be stored in your TMR0H. So what you can do is read every time TMR0H and TMR0L. So the program that we are seeing over the next when we see is, I have put RA4 a switch. So here we have a switch and it is connected to RA4. Now when I press this switch, there will be transitions and that transition will be counted by the counter, right? And I will put the value of the counter value. So I have 4 LEDs. I will put the counter value onto the LEDs and we can see the change in the counter values. So let us go for the programming next.